How's everybody doing? That's it? I come all the way from Canada and that's their welcome I get? How's everybody doing? That's better. My name is Rabbi Aryeh Pamensky. I live in Toronto. And I want to talk to you tonight about what I think is probably the most misunderstood area of life. And that's the area of relationships, really marriage. Now, marriage is one of those areas that we honestly think we're going to figure it out as we go along. You're dating, you get in the dating world. You say, well, it's kind of fun. I think I like it. I don't really understand what I'm doing. I don't know what's going on. But maybe if I get in a committed relationship, then it's going to start making sense. And then we get in a committed relationship, we say, well, I still don't really understand. Maybe when I've been married 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, then marriage is going to start making sense to me. Anybody here ever want to learn how to fly an airplane? Yeah? You know, there's a unique school in Toronto for flying a plane. What's your name? Shani? So, Shani, I'm going to tell you about it, and you tell me whether or not you want to go to this school. They have this little Cessna airplane, and what they do is they take you up with an instructor. They give you sort of a rudimentary understanding about how to keep the plane afloat. And then when they see that you can sort of do it, the instructor puts a parachute on, jumps out, and says, "Good luck!" You going to come to the flight school?
Maybe after my kids are grown up.
Maybe after the kids are grown up, she said. What's missing?
Men.
How to land it. Very good. What's missing?
Some knowledge.
The knowledge. The instructions. Now, I was once giving a talk in Toronto, and there was a guy sitting right about where you're sitting. And I was talking about this flight school, and he was chuckling. He was really like chuckling. It's a chuckle, but he was really laughing. And I turned to him and I said, "What's so funny?" And he said, "I'm a pilot for Air Canada." He said, "I fly jumbo jets." And he said, "Flying a jumbo jet is a breeze compared to marriage." Where's the instruction manual for marriage? Where is the instruction manual for relationships? Well, tonight I'm going to give you a 3,500-year-old secret for creating incredibly passionate, dynamic, growth-oriented, long-term relationships. And it's all really predicated on one main truth. And that is that men and women are... Different! Thank you! How different? Very. Unbelievably, fantastically different. Now, how different are we? Now, before I go on, I just want to see who I'm speaking to. Anybody here married? Put up your hand, please. Okay, very good. Anybody here with their spouse? Anybody with somebody else's spouse? Always the one guy in the back over there. Any singles? A couple of you. Okay, great. Have you guys met each other? So, anybody been married more than 20 years? Just a few of us? Oh, yeah. Oh. 30 years? More than 20? Has anybody in England ever been married more than 30 years? This isn't a representation of the population. So based on your experience in marriage and relationships, what do you think some of the main differences are between men and women? Women remember. Do we all agree with that? Yes. Every male voice went, yes. Any other differences? Yes. She said she's sorry for saying it, but she said she thinks men are a little bit more selfish. Do we agree with that? No. That was great. Okay, well, we'll see if we can get some kind of consensus. Any other differences? I'm sorry, I forgot to turn off my phone. I'm going to do that right now. If you also forgot to turn off your phone, now would be a good time to do it too. Any other differences? Yes?
Women are more with emotions.
Women are more emotional, or with their emotions. Do we agree with that? Yeah. No? Yeah. I personally am quite hurt by that comment. I'm not sure. Any other differences?
Men are a bit more one-dimensional.
Men are a bit more... This is getting nasty now. Maybe I should stop. Men are a bit more one-dimensional. What does that mean, one-dimensional? I don't even know what that means.
Simplistic.
Simplistic?
Well, I mean that negative way about women sometimes, a bit too complex and a bit too...
Okay, that's very interesting. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. That's a very interesting comment. Okay, very good. Do we agree? Yes. Yeah. Is that everybody else's experience? Women tend to be able to multitask.
Yeah, but the thing we get to do, we do very well.
All right, very good. Men have big egos, right? As well? Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe women are possibly more emotionally intelligent, like more in touch with their feelings and willing to explore them and be open about them.
So she said women are, generally speaking, more emotionally intelligent, in touch with their emotions, able to express their emotions more than men. Do you agree with that? Does that include English women? Sorry about that. Okay, Canadian joke. Any others? Any other differences? Instinct, women are more instinctive. Do you agree with that? I don't know, I'm not sure. Yeah.
I think women have more patience.
Okay, we'll see. Women have more patience, he said.
Rabbi Pamensky, just to lob something at you, we all relate to these stereotypes, but they might not be true in individual relationships.
That's true.
And it might be that in a particular relationship, the man is more emotional.
That's true.
And the woman more analytical.
That's true.
And so on and so forth. I just throw that at you.
I agree. That may happen. Tens of thousands of people I've spoken to over the last 10 years, I haven't met any yet. But I'm still open to the possibility that people are, different. No, I agree 100%, of course. And everyone, there's extremes on either side, and there's a middle, there's a mush. But the good thing about stereotypes is that you get to learn a point and then bring it back to the center again.
What about the fact that when you actually marry someone, invariably there comes a time when you realize that you're very different from the other? Whether it's a gender thing or...
I'm gonna ask you to hold for that just for a second, because you're getting off point.
Yeah.
And what I want to do is that there will be time for questions, and I'm happy to have a discussion with you, a question about it, okay? But right now I just want to stereotype in the most horrific way the differences between men and women. Yeah.
Women are possibly more needy, more insecure, maybe more attention, maybe.
I'm even scared to repeat it and ask it. What do you think? Agree or disagree? Agree. Interesting. Very interesting. Wow. Well, you guys are a sophisticated crowd. I think that's great. You gave amazing answers, really. And what I would like to do is I would like to take everything you said, and I would like to tell you that I think that there's one thing, as it pertains to the relationship between a husband and wife, that describes the main difference between men and women as it pertains to a relationship. It really encompasses everything you said. And that is that women are relationship beings. Men are not. Men are not. Women are relationship beings. What do I mean by a relationship being? It means they understand the world of relationships. They navigate the world of relationships with ease. When I was first teaching my seminars about 12 years ago in Toronto, I had small groups, and it's an 8-week seminar, is the original seminar. And I would, the first time we were together, I wanted some kind of getting to know you workshop. And I would split the men and the women up into 2 groups, and I'd give them an assignment. But not only was it a way to get to know each other, but it was an experiment that I did over and over and over again, and at a 100% success rate. And the experiment was this. I gave the women and the men an assignment. The assignment was describe the ideal husband, the ideal wife, and the ideal marriage. Then I gave them 20 minutes to go and prepare some answers, and then I brought them back together, and I said, okay, let's see what you got. Women, do you have a spokeswoman? And the woman would stand up. I go, what's your name? She says, Barbara. And I say, thank you. Man, you have a spokeswoman? Yeah, what's your name? Bob. Bob, you mind if we go ladies first? Nope. Okay, Barbara, what'd you come up with? And this is where the experiment came in. I said, okay, Barbara, listen. Before you tell me what you wrote down, can you do me a favor? Can you please tell me her name? Well, yeah, her name is Sarah. How many kids does she have? She has 3. What schools do they go to? This school, that school, that school. They're interested. I said, what's her name? And her name's Sue. And I go over here, how many kids does she have? Oh, they don't have any kids yet. And I look over at Bob, and Bob is sweating buckets, looking down at me. She's going, wait a minute, that wasn't one of the questions? Because what do men do? They go through the questions, boom, 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 and then what do they talk about? Sports, right? Universal answer, 5 continents. Sports. When would they ever get to know the names of the other men in the group? Or later on when their wives introduce them. Short of that. But women, we're going to be spending 20 precious minutes together. Who are you? And then they do the assignment. Women are relationship beings. Men are not. I got to share this. I don't do this to everybody. You guys are a great crowd. I want to share with you. I was giving a talk. And I was flying somewhere to give the talk. And I was sitting down at the airport. And there was a newspaper next to me. And there was a picture of a car. So I'm a guy, I can't resist. I want to read the review of this car. And as I was reading, I couldn't believe how this guy who wrote this was describing how men are not relationship beings, how men are not. Now listen to this. It was a guy going to a place called Sindelfingen, Germany. Why there? That's where they make Mercedes-Benz, the Mercedes-Benz. And he was going to pick up a Mercedes-Benz V8-powered S600 V12 turbocharged car. And he was excited. This guy was excited. So he flew over there to get the first one off the line. And this is his writing about his experience. Listen to what it says. Taking delivery of your factory-fresh Mercedes-Benz, all seems right with the world. The mind is momentarily cleared of broader concerns. Somewhere war is giving way to peace. Famines are ending. He's having a sublime experience. He's experiencing a world without war. He's experiencing a world without hunger. Look at the next line. It says, somewhere war is giving way to peace. Famines are ending. Divorces are amicable. He can envision a world without war. He can envision a world without hunger. But put him in front of a relationship, what's the best he can come up with? Divorces are amicable. How about no divorce? No! Way beyond my scope of understanding. Women are relationship beings. Men are not. Now, if men are not relationship beings, what do they need in a relationship with a relationship being to fulfill her in her most important relationship? What do they need? Understanding. Very good. What else? Someone to explain to them what to do. Very good.
Perhaps some knowledge that they're not relationship beings.
That's very good. Some knowledge that they're not relationship beings. So I like to say in man speak, and some of you already said it before, what a man needs in a relationship to be successful in a relationship with a relationship being, in man speak, what he needs is a job. He needs a job description. Tell me what to do to be successful in a relationship with a relationship being. And tonight I'm coming to give you your job description, men. And it's very simple. Your job is to make your wives happy. When? All the time. That is correct. Your job is to make her happy all the time. What does all the time mean?
When I'm not in the house.
All the time. All the time means you wake up in the morning, you say, thank God I'm alive. Make my wife happy. You go downstairs to have breakfast. What am I going to eat? Rice Krispies or cornflakes? Make my wife happy. You go to work. While you're at your work job, what's your real job? Make your wife happy. Come home at night, make your wife happy. Go to bed at night, make your wife happy. Your job is to make your wife happy when?
All the time.
All the time. Usually at this point, half the room claps. Really, the other half start looking at their watch going, oh, how long is this going to go on for? Make her happy. When? All the time. So let me explain a little bit of the theory behind this model. And then after I describe the theory, and then I'll take a few questions before we move on. Theory is actually quite simple. Imagine if I would have said to the women, hey, women, your job is to make the men happy. What would the relationship look like? Well, the woman would make the man happy, and the man would be happy. It's going, yeah, so? Sounds pretty good. It does sound pretty good, but it doesn't make for a dynamic, passionate, growing relationship. So I tell the men, look, you do your job, men. You make your wife happy. She, being a relationship being, what will she do with the energy you put in the relationship? Give it back. How much? As much? More. Way, way more. So it's an unbelievable thing, gentlemen. You do your job. You make her happy. She takes that energy. She gives it back to you, making you happier than you ever knew you could be in the relationship. What's the one thing you must not do at this point, gentlemen?
Watch football.
No, you can watch football. Once you've gone through the cycle of you giving the energy, she's giving it back, make you happier. What must you not do? Think. The worst thing you can do at this point, men, is start thinking and analyzing the relationship. What starts happening when a man starts analyzing his relationship? Starts going downhill. Just do your job. What's your job? Make her happy. She, being the relationship, take the energy you're putting in to make her happy. She'll captain the ship of the relationship, pointing it to where it needs to go, giving back to you, lifting the levels of intimacy, connection, and communication, at which point you do your job, you make her happy. She takes that energy, puts it back in, lifts the relationship up, creating the dynamic of this unbelievably passionate, fun, loving, growth-filled relationship. Any questions? Any questions? That's a good. Say that again.
How can you do it all the time to make her happy?
All right, yeah, that's really the million-dollar question right there, figuratively speaking. Right? How? Seriously? Make her happy all the time? Really? Is it even possible? How do you do that? First of all, there's one caveat I just want to say. Can anybody make anybody else happy? No? So what am I talking about then? Because if I say your job is to make her happy all the time, but we know that no one can make you happy. So first of all, you should know that there's your work, which is the work of being a person who allows happiness into your life. That's your own personal work. That's nothing to do with the relationship. If you're a person who doesn't allow happiness in their life anywhere, in their job, with their children, with their relationships, with their parents, so that's your job. That's not your spouse's job. So you have to be a person who allows happiness into your life. Once you're a person who's open to happiness, can then your spouse make you happy? Absolutely. But the question is, all the time? And how? How do you do it? Reminds me of an old joke. Famous old joke about these three women who were trying to get a date in London. Couldn't find a good man anywhere. They were all taken. So they heard there was this new place that opened up, 5 stories, and on each floor there was a different kind of man, guaranteed to find the man of your dream. So they said, we got to go. So they went, and they didn't know where to go. So they went to the concierge in front, and they said, where should we go? We said, why don't you start at level 1 and work your way up. When you get out of the elevator, there's a plaque telling you what kind of man you'll find on each floor, and stop where you're happy. So they said, okay. They push 1, they get out, and says, on this floor there are men who are insensitive, horrible, ugly, stingy, poor, bad communicators, and insensitive. They went right back in the elevator. Push 2. On this floor, you'll find men that are tall, handsome, stingy, bad communicators, poor. And they're going, ugh. They get to 3. They get to 4. They get to the 5th floor out of 6. 5 out of 6. They get to the 5th floor, and they find that there's a plaque that says, on this floor, you'll find men that are tall, handsome, generous, loving, good communicators, sensitive, and nice to their mothers. Not bad. Wow, we're getting somewhere now. They said, but there is a 6th floor. Should we go up there and see what's there? So they get back in the elevator, they push 6, they go up and they open, and there's a plaque. It says, this floor was created just to prove there's no pleasing women. An old joke. But your question is, really, make her happy when? All the time? Come on, how do you do that? How do you make her happy all the time? So I'm going to tell you how I learned the secret of making my wife happy all the time. Before I was married, I knew that I was getting into something I didn't understand. So I went to seek out the advice of wise people all over the place to teach me what I'm getting into, teach me about relationships. And after I got married, I realized everything I learned before marriage was just theory. And now I really needed the help and the advice. So I continue the practice till to this day to find people to teach me how to be a good husband. One of the times, bless you, one of the times that I was in Jerusalem, I was there, and a friend of mine said, I have an opportunity for us. Do you want it? I said, what? He said, we can go see Rav Moshe Aaron Stern, Zatzal. He was a big rabbi who was the mashgiach of a yeshiva, the spiritual advisor of a college of Jewish study in Jerusalem called the Kamenetz Yeshiva. And he said, I can get us in there if you want to go. And he said he'd tell us how to make our wives happy, tell us about marriage. You want to go? I said, yes. So he set it up, and we went. And we walked to the Kamenetz Yeshiva, and there's a big courtyard in front, and we're all nervous. We don't know where to go. We asked a guy. He said his office is in the back corner. You got to take these rickety old stairs up, and we get into this room that looked like it was carved at the time of the Ottomans. We sit down at a bench at this long table with books everywhere, this farm everywhere. We're all nervous, and in walks this old man with a white beard, with a cane, and he walked in, and he sat down, and he said, "So, gentlemen," that's how he used to talk. At least that's the way I heard it. "So, gentlemen, you want to know how to make your wives happy?" Like, yeah. It's very simple. All you got to do are the 3 A's. Guaranteed to make her happy. 3 A's. What do you think they are? Appreciation. Very good. That was one of his.
Attention.
Attention was one of his. Affection was one of his. First group ever to get on the first 3 tries. Really, in like 10 years. I was in New York about four years ago, and we rented this comedy club called Caroline's Comedy Club on Broadway, and we packed it out with people, and we did a whole thing for them there, and I was talking about the 3 A's, and I said, what do you think they are? I'm telling you the first 3 things they said in New York. American Express, apologize, alimony. Very nice. I said, those weren't the 3 the rabbi gave me. You guys got them right away. Attention, affection, and appreciation. He said, gentlemen, if you give your wife the attention she needs from you, the affection that she craves from you, and the appreciation she so rightly deserves from you, guaranteed you will make her happy. Now, I don't want you to take my word for it. If you're sitting with your wife, I'd like you to turn to her and ask her, if I give you the attention, affection, appreciation that I was talking about, would it make you happy? And if you're not here with your wife, or if you're single, look around, find a spare woman somewhere. Ask her. And go ahead, ask, and I won't watch. Go ahead. Okay, so what did she say? Yes. Very good. Yes. So it's a good start. She also wants the American Express? Got it. The 4 A's in London. Okay, so let me explain to you what we're going to be talking about for the next little while. I want to set up the next little while. I would like to give you some tools for attention, 1 tool for attention, 1 tool for affection, 1 tool for appreciation for the men. It's very practical tools that you can take, put in your pocket, walk out of here and start applying it to your marriage right away to see improvement. I will have you know that if you do go to the website happywife.com, not kidding, happywife.com, there you will find lots of free stuff and lots of stuff you can buy, which are more tools if you want those. But I'm going to give you some stuff tonight that's very powerful and works very well. After we do that, then I'm going to talk to the women about what women need to know in order to make the men happy. And then after that, we'll take some questions. How's that sound? Much better, he said. But before we do that, I want to just share with you, given the fact that this is Tikkun, and the innate health model is very important, I'd like to share with those that understand what the innate health model is, where this fits in, just so you know what we're talking about. It'll take about 3 minutes. Now, there are three different levels of what I call levels of consciousness. And people just, how they are in their life. The lowest level is what I call a level of being a victim. Do we know anybody who goes through their life sort of with a victim mentality? Don't name names, but do we know anybody?
Yes.
Yeah? What's their life like? Miserable life, right? So give me a description of the kinds of things how they approach the world and how they approach people. Blame, right? Huge. Into blame. What else? Negativity. That didn't go as far as I thought it would. Yeah, huh?
And external locus of control. No control.
No control. Completely out of control. Excellent. What else? Despair. Low self-esteem. What else? Pardon? Pessimistic. Very good.
Clash with people.
Right. Clash with people. They don't know how to have relationships. And when they do, they blame. It's their fault. It's their fault. It's their fault.
They're angry.
Angry. Isn't that true? Anger. What else?
Ask for a lot of help.
They do, right? We call them vampire. Know what I mean by that? They suck the energy out of everybody they meet.
Likely to be a lot of self-blame, too.
Yeah, self-blame, self-pity. What else? A couple more. I'm about to cry, so we got to move on. What? Sad. What's their energy level like usually? Low energy, right? So there's a level above that, which what I call the world of control. This is where you say, no, wait a minute. I can take control of my life. You know people like this, right? You know people who say, when life serves you lemons, make lemonade, and you put slogans on the walls, and they say, I can do this, and they self-help books. There's $1 billion self-help industry, and you want to know how to go from here to here. I can show you how to do it. I have tools and whatnot, and I can get you on. So what is the person like this? What's their experience of life like? Optimistic.
Exhausting.
That would be perhaps, yeah. Egocentric. I'm just going to say that I think this is more egocentric. Right? It's all about me. This person could be positive. Yeah.
Maybe when they're faced with something they can't control, then it's even worse.
When they can't control, then they jump back down to victim again, right? So, but when they are in control, when they feel they're in control, what's their life like? You guys ever gone to self-help programs? You ever been to like those kind of seminaries? Walk on coals! Whoa, let's go out there and walk on coals, Break boards! Hayach! Huh?
Very affected. In other words, a little bit artificial. It might be artificial.
It might be, but what's their experience of life? What are their relationships like?
Positive.
Sure, positive, right? This is a great thing. These are people who are up 6 o'clock in the morning exercising, right? And they go to work and they're trying to do the best that they can, and they come home and these are people with stacks of children raising books in their bathroom. These are the people who say, "Give me a tool, let me try it. I want to do it." This is empowering people with energy, and they want to grow, and this is a wonderful thing. Americans, he said. New Yorkers, to be more exact. So, how come this isn't the highest level? It sounds like a pretty good way to live.
But they lack confidence in their own innate self.
So let me tell you something about this. Let me put a double line here. This world of control and victim are two sides of the same coin. They're actually two sides of the same coin. This is the negative side of the coin, this is the positive side of the coin, but it's exactly the same coin. Both these people believe that life happens to them. And one person says, life happens to me, and I can't control it, and it's horrible, and I'm a victim, and everybody's fault. This person says, life happens to me, but I can do something about it. I can tackle it. I can find the tools that I need in order to make it work. It's wonderful. Life comes at me, but I'm strong. I'm stronger than life. being a person who's in control, a choice control person, is just a glorified victim. Because what they're doing is constantly responding to what's happening to them from the outside in. The world is an outside-in world. Everyone see that? The world of tools. Does that sound as funny to you as it did coming out of my mouth? Yeah. I guess it's apropos. The world of self-help, where people give you strategies and tools. These are the world where we try to take people out of victim to give them control. And that's a wonderful thing. It's really a wonderful thing, because being a victim is not a nice way to live your life. It's a great thing to be able to have control, to take control of your life. What we're going to be doing tonight is I'm going to be giving you tools about how to take control of your marriage. And they work to take you from being a victim to take you to getting in control of your marriage. Apply them, they work. But this isn't what we're really shooting for ultimately. Ultimately, we're shooting for something much higher, which is what I call freedom. Freedom is when you're living inside out. You realize that your spouse isn't really doing anything to you. Your marriage, it doesn't exist out there. Everything all exists in your between your ears. You're creating the experience of your marriage. I just met with a couple on Friday, and I have a counseling center in Toronto. I do it part-time. And the first meeting with a couple is always exactly the same. They come, they sit on the couch, and I say, tell me about your marriage. This one starts blaming, yelling at this one. This one starts blaming at this one. Right? That's how it always starts. And they say, please give us tools and control in order to do it. And I explain to them, you want to know something? If you want to learn how to have an incredible marriage, an incredible relationship, you have to understand that you've created the relationship inside your own thinking. Your thinking has created that for yourself from the inside out. So when we talk about innate health, what we're talking about, and I'll get to it in a second, we're talking about innate health. We're talking about getting to a world where you can start creating your marriage and your life here. We're not trying to, from the innate health perspective, we're not trying to give you tools so that you can stop being a victim and get in control. Why not? Because it's not a real internal change. All you're doing is shuffling the deck chairs on the Titanic. You know that expression? Right? You're making external changes and hoping that it'll sink inside. This is where real change happens. Because we know, anybody ever been on a diet, trying to lose weight?
No, never.
Yeah? No, never? So you go on a diet, and one thing you know for sure is a person who's on a diet, you say, how's it going? They go, great, it's fantastic, wow, I lost so much weight, this is the best thing ever. You have to try this lemon and cayenne pepper for a month, that's all you have in water, and that's it, it's a panacea, change it. What do you know about that person in 6 months? Right? They've gone all the way back, right? So you're a victim, you get in control, oh, this is fantastic, and then something happens externally that outside of you, and boom, you're back at a victim again. Right? When I used to do marriage counseling at the beginning of my marriage counseling, I would give people tools to figure out how to help them change their marriage. And it would be so great, they'd be with me for 3 months, they'd go, thank you, that's fantastic, it's excellent, and then they would call me in 3 or 6 months going, I hate him, I want to kill him. And I go, why? What happened? What about the stuff we spoke about? Well, he did this, and he changed. Because what happens is you look for external changes. Well, those don't last, because it's not internal changes. You're not changing the machine that's having the experience. You're just trying to change the external experience. You can't do that long term. So what I do with my counseling couples is that they make a 6-month commitment to me. They have to spend 6 months with me. I have them pay in advance, so they can't quit. If they quit, I cash their checks on purpose. They can't quit. They have to last 6 months. And what we do is we skip this whole section, and we go straight to choice control, straight to freedom, so that they can change themselves from the inside out, and then the marriage changes along with them, which makes sense. I have found, though, after all these years, that it's very difficult for people to get to this point from here. If you're self-loathing and you have no energy and you're a victim and everybody's to blame and it's horrible, I find that it takes a tremendous amount of, I wouldn't say energy, it's just rare that somebody can go from very low points of being a victim and get insights about how to be free, have a free mind. So the idea of tools is very important because it gives the person the ability to get out of being a victim, so that they have the possibility of seeing tools, of getting past the tools to see internal changes. So tonight, what we're going to do is I'm going to give you some tools that really, really work. And once you apply them, then you come back here to Tikkun, and you meet with the innate health experts that are here, in that from control, and now you bump out of that world and make those internal changes because they're tremendous at it here. Okay? So that's the context of what we're going to talk about. Any questions about that? Yeah?
Does where innate health come into it? Is that a contradiction to what you said before about first the man making the woman happy and then her reflecting that energy? Because in our innate health it would be that she would be able to give that energy to human being anyway, regardless of what he's doing.
Yes. When I said men and women are different, well, that doesn't change. But when I said that women are relationship beings and the man has to do his job and the energy, that's all the tools. That's to get people from here to here. To start creating a good functioning relationship, a self-help, good functioning relationship. Once you're dealing in innate health, all this stuff becomes something good to remember when you slip into bad habits. Because nobody lives with their innate health all the time. So when you slip into this, use your tools, and you have a chance to get back out of it again.
What I'm saying is she able anyway to reflect, to make that relationship that you spoke about dynamic and etc., without him doing his bit?
It's a very interesting question. Can I take it for a sec? It's a very, very interesting question. What's your first name? Leah. Leah asked a question. She said, let's say one spouse gets innate health. Can that, and let's say it's the woman, can she create that dynamic, passionate relationship if her husband doesn't have it and he's stuck down here? What do you think?
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
Because he has to have the innate also, because he'll keep back blaming her anyway.
Interesting, right? So let me tell you something that happened to me by way of illustration. I had a couple come into my office, and after the second meeting, the husband said, "I don't want to be here anymore. I don't want to do this. I'm not doing this." So I said, "Fine. I'm still cashing your check." And so the wife said, "Well, in that case, I'll stay." And she spent 6 months with me working on herself and her innate health. Towards the end of the 6 months, he came back. And he said, "I don't know what happened, but boy, did she change. And the marriage is great now. I mean, everything that was the problem was her fault. I told you that at the beginning. Now she's not doing it anymore, and everything's great." So I said, "Yeah, thank you very much. That's very interesting." But what really happens, and this is a klal, this is a general rule with innate health, is that people have to have a relationship on the same level. Otherwise, you're not having a relationship. You're not relating to each other. If you're a person who has what we call quiet, his ability to live in a psychological freedom, and you have the ability to be quiet, and the person that you're dealing with, whether it's your spouse, your child, your business partner, your in-laws, whoever it may be, and they don't have that, they're busy or victim, in order to relate, one of two things has to happen. You either have to get out of your innate health, and then you'll relate in the world of victim and blame, or you stay there and they have no choice but to rise and meet you there. It's my experience that if one person is psychologically free, the relationship changes for the better. Unbelievably so. That's my experience. And he stops blaming and he stops doing all the things that you talk about. We could take a couple more questions on this before we get to the tools. I think it would be valuable if that's what you would like to do. I'm happy to do that. Do you want to ask?
Just insight, because some people who are down there have no insights into their practical behavior.
I think that the word insight is a brilliant word. Insight. I'll patent the word right now. I'm copywriting it. Outsight. I think what you said is brilliant. Insight, outsight. Yeah. Any other questions?
Well, no. The point I was going to make was that I understand about the relate thing, but actually people who are stuck down there have no insight, and therefore you can carry on trying to be calm, peaceful, whatever it is, up there, but they're scurrying around in the outside.
Oh, but what happens is the person that you're having your outsight with is a person who is free, and you have nobody to... You serve the ball, but there's no one hitting it back. Blame! I love you, and I think that, you're an amazing person, and I'm going to do everything I can to help you and love you. I'm sorry you're having such a hard time. Be quiet! You're so annoying! Okay, I'll be quiet. How long will that last? That the person gets angry and angry? You're not going to get angry and angry.
If the person is emotionally abusive, then it could probably last for a long time, and then she would just become more and more...
Emotional. I'm going to say something that it's not. I believe me. I'm not treading on the word on the concept of abuse. It's a whole separate subject, and I'm extremely hard line about it. But we're going to use the word emotional abuse within the context of a fairly healthy marriage, not abuse with the big capital A abuse. Okay, because that's a whole different discussion. But a person who's getting emotional abuse is a victim. If a person with psychological freedom doesn't get emotional abuse, it's not abuse because they're not a victim.
So if you're not a victim and you've got all this inside, why don't you just walk away?
Because you don't need to, because the marriage starts changing. The person starts changing. That's what I'm telling you. Anyway, I would like to say that this is a b'di'evad discussion, a discussion that is not what we're looking for. I don't want you to walk out here and say, only one of us needs to do this. That's not what we're looking for. If both are pointing towards this place, the marriage will be unbelievable. 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 As will the rest of your life. Okay, let's get back to some tools. Unless there's any more questions on this. Let's get back to some tools. Okay. Tools for men. How to make your wife happy. First of all, men and women are different. How different? Very, very different. But I just want to point out one thing. Did you notice that as soon as I stopped talking about the innate health and the quiet, and I went into the tool mode, again, it didn't sound right. When I went into the, giving strategies, did you notice how I changed? What was the difference?
Tone.
What was the difference in the way that I...
More dynamic.
Right? Became more dynamic. What else? I got the energy. Right? I'm going to give you over this information. Here, I'm in my self-help seminar leader mode. Here we go. That's exactly what this is. I'm going to sweep you up with me. I'm going to help you, right? External, outside in. As opposed to when I was talking to you about this stuff, I wasn't interested in that. You get your own insight and you'll change how you want to change. Here, I'm not interested in you changing how you want to change. I want you to get my information and apply it. Because it works. Guaranteed. Money back. Right? Okay, so let's get back to the tool mode. Men and women are? How different? Very, very different. What's the difference? Women are relationship beings. Men are not. If men are not relationship beings, what do they need in a relationship to be successful in a relationship with a relationship being? A job. Gentlemen, what is your job? Make your wife happy when? All the time. How do you make her happy? 3 A's. What are they? Tension, affection, Appreciation. You guys are amazing. Wow, you see that? You retained all that information. That's tremendous. So let's talk about how do you do that? How do you do? So I'm going to give the first one I'd like to do is give a tool for appreciation. It's really the hardest of all the tools because it's very difficult to make your wife feel appreciated. It's very difficult. And I'd like to give you one tool that I think will help you understand what it means that your wife needs to feel your appreciation. In my counseling center, we initiated a study to find out, after all these years, why people came to counseling. And we figured out that 80% of the people came because they had some sort of issue around communication. They had a very difficult time communicating. And it makes sense, because if men and women are so different, it makes sense, therefore, that they speak different languages. And they do. Men and women speak different languages. Women speak woman speak, men speak, man speak. But the remarkable thing about woman speak and man speak is that they use the same words, but they have entirely different meanings. You know what I'm talking about? I'm going to call my wife after this talk, and I'm going to go back, when I go back to where I'm staying, and she's going to ask me, how did it go? I think it's going pretty nicely so far, don't you? Really? That's all I get again? Right? What am I going to say to her? I'm not going to say great, because I never use that word. What do I say? I do use it, but in this context, what would I say usually? Fine. Isn't that really what I say? Fine. What do I mean? Fine. It went fine. It's great. I'm going to ask my wife about something that she did, today, which I knew about, and she's going to say, fine. What does she mean? Who knows what she means? I mean, she could mean fine. She could mean not fine. She could mean, how dare you ask me at a time like this? And it's all in the word fine. Why is that? Because men and women use words differently. Women use words as relationships. Every word is a relationship. It's a connection. Women use words as relationships. Men use words as words. Exactly. Women use words as relationship. Men use words as words. Let me give you an example of what I mean by this, by illustration. A relationship is like an iceberg. What percentage of an iceberg is below the surface? It's about 90%. How much is above the surface? About 10%. Men are in a boat. Women are in a submarine with a periscope. Men see the 10% that's above the surface. Women are living in the 90% beneath the surface and go up above the surface sometimes. So when men and women speak, a man uses a word, it's a word. A woman uses a word, it's context, it's emotion, it's history, it's, I don't even know what it is. So we use the same words, but they have entirely different meanings. My wife will walk into the room, which just happened last week. My wife will walk into the room and she'll go, and I've been thinking about it, and I think we should never use her again. Who? What? What are you talking about? Give me context. I don't understand. But I've seen her do that with her girlfriends. She'll get on the phone to her girlfriend and say, I've been thinking we should never use her again. And the girlfriend goes, I don't think you should either. What are you talking about? Where's the context? Women use words as relationships. Men use words as words. So I want to do a little bit of math with you, and I want you to understand, given this, the tool for appreciation is if women are relationship beings and women love relationships, and women use words as relationships, therefore women love words. Women will use a tremendous amount of detail in the relationship. And men, how do we? No, not to relate. So for example, I'll talk to my dad on the phone. It happens a couple times a week. Hey, Dad. Hey, son. How are you? Good. You? Good. Work? Good. You? Good. Put in a good day's work. Well, bye. Nice talking to you. Nice talking to you. I put the phone down, look at my wife. She looks at me and she goes, what was that? What do you mean? Everything was fine. We put the phone in. My wife and her mother, they take longer to say hello to each other. My father and I have a fully satisfying conversation. For example, if the night before we went to a wedding, and the next day she's speaking to her mother, what are the kinds of things they're speaking about? The dress, the food, the atmosphere, the flowers, the color. Why do you do this, women? Why? I mean, never once did a conversation with my father and I go, "Hey, Dad." "Hey, son. How are you?" "Good. You?" "Good. Work?" "Good. You?" "Put in a good day's work." "Really? What did you wear?" Never happened. Never will happen. Why not? Why not? That's not how we relate. But for women, every detail is a connection. The detail's not important. It's the connection that's important. So gentlemen, if you want to make your wife feel appreciated or get an inkling of what it means to make her feel appreciated, when your wife starts with the details, what do you need to do? You need to be a man, step into the conversation, and allow her to talk to you with the details, because every detail is a connection. I just want to do a little experiment for a second. Women, we're going to pretend you're not here. It's just men talk for 1 sec. Okay, men, what's going through your mind when the women start with the details?
How long is this going to take?
Right, really? You start your wife, you say, "Hey, honey." She goes, "Hi." You go, "How was work?" And she says, "Well, when I woke up this morning, it looked like it might rain. I wasn't sure whether to take my suede shoes or the leather shoes." Oh! He's smiling and he's nodding, but inside he's going, "Oh, please!" What's he thinking? "Please, please, please! Just get to the point! Get to the point!" But gentlemen, what you have to understand, that is the point. The details are the point. Because the details are the connection. So when your wife is trying to connect you with details, you have to really understand, to make her feel appreciated, you have to let her communicate to you as a woman needs to communicate. And you should actually feel privileged that this spectacular woman, seriously, this spectacular woman chose you to connect to at this moment. And look at it, a privilege that you have the opportunity to give her what she needs. Amazing thing. Now, do men ever use detail? Of course they do. Right? When do men use detail?
Describing a football game.
Everyone's saying football, right? Well, but when do men use detail? Men use detail when they think that what they have to say is very interesting. They'll use detail. Women use detail to connect. So we have a little bit of an issue here, because when a woman hears the man giving details, what's she thinking? Oh, he's trying to connect. But what's he really doing? Giving over interesting information. Is it interesting? Women, when you start with the details, what is your husband thinking? Oh, wow, she's going to be saying something interesting. So it's really important, it's very important that you understand that your husband is not giving you details to connect. So you should try to find out what's interesting about what he does, what he says. And men, you should understand what your wife is saying she's trying to connect, and the details are not important. It's the connection that's important. You do that, you'll make her feel incredibly appreciated as a woman. That's an example of a tool for appreciation. Everybody get it? Yeah. Great. Next one. Let's do a tool for attention. I like this one. This is a good tool. I like this one. Imagine, how do you greet your wife when you come home from work, or when you haven't seen her all day? You both come home from work and you see her for the first time. How do you greet her when you walk in the door? Oh, I'm so tired. I had a whole day. You don't know what it's like out there. It's dog-eat-dog world out there. It's terrible. I'm exhausted. Just give me a couple minutes. You walk in. You go upstairs. You want to get out of your suit. You want to sit down on the chair. You want to go through your emails. You say, "Honey, I'll be with you in a few minutes." You want to unwind from a long, hard day in the salt mines, right? Now imagine this. Imagine what it makes her feel like when you haven't seen her all day, and you walk in and it's like you didn't even care. You don't care. Like imagine that. Who's somebody in this country that would excite you if they were on the other side of the door? Is this some? I would have said, if I was in America, I would have said the president. But who would it be here? The president?
The president.
Sure. Some amazing celebrity or Rav, whatever. Pick the person of your choice is behind the door, and you would walk in the house and say, let's say, what's your president's name? Your prime minister's name? Campbell. Cameron. What's his first name? David Cameron. So you say to David Cameron. He's in. You walk in. You see David Cameron. You go, "Hey, Dave. Be with you in a minute. I'm going upstairs to change, get my track pants on, I'm going to go through my emails, and I'm going to right." Or your biggest client was there when you walked home, or your biggest donor, or whatever it is you do was there. So you walk in. You go, "Hey, thanks, Mr. Schwartz, but I'll be with you in a few." I'm going to go. It's ridiculous. You would never do that, but we do that with our wife. How does it make her feel? You know, I had a friend of mine was a fundraiser for a multinational nonprofit organization, and he worked hard. He used to leave at 6 in the morning, sometimes come home at 9, 10 at night, going all day. And his wife told me the story. She said that one day he came home, it's about 9:30 at night, and he walks in the door and he's exhausted, and he walks in and his wife says, "Hi, honey," and he goes, "Couch." She goes, "What?" "Couch." That's what she said. And he shuffles over to the couch and she lies down on the couch. So she pulls over a chair and she says, "Hey, would you like a drink?" "Too tired to drink." She says, "Oh, wow. Well, how was your day?" "Too tired to talk." She goes, wow, tiring day. "Okay, honey." And the phone rings, she gets up and goes, he's lying on the couch, and she comes back a minute later and says, "Honey, it's for you." He says, "Who is it?" "It's Mr. Cohen." He was his biggest donor. He jumped off the couch, grabbed the phone, and said, "Hey, Mr. Cohen, how are you?" "Absolutely, no problem. I'll be there in 15 minutes. Puts the phone down and says, "He needs me to sign a document. I'll be back in about an hour." And he starts walking. He opens the door. And as he opens the door to walk out, he senses something behind him. And he sees, and he says, "Uh-oh, I'm in trouble, aren't I?" And this is what she said. She said, "No, you're not in trouble. What you've done now is you've shown me how you're going to greet me every single day that you come home from work for the rest of our marriage." You get it? Because if it's important to him, if it was somebody important, he would muster up the energy. Yeah, we think, but it's a real relationship, and she wants me to be real, and it's my home too, and I want... Forget it. It's all excuses. Before you come home, you muster up enough energy that when you walk in that door, you're excited to see her, you give her the attention that she needs at that moment. Sorry you came tonight? Yeah. So what happens if you really are exhausted? So this is what I do. Before I come home, I'll stop at the park on the way home. I'll get out of the car and I'll run around or do some brisk walking. I'll do some push-ups or jumping jacks to get the blood flowing. If I'm starving, in my glove compartment, I have these energy bars or whatever they're called, the granola bars. I'll eat a little bit before I come in so I don't run to the fridge first thing when I get home. And I make sure that I greet my wife like she is the most important client or the most important person in the world when I'm walking in every single day. That's the kind of attention that we're talking about. And the thing is that you have to get in your heads that she is the most important person in your life. And she is the most important client in your life. And she deserves it more than whoever else it could be. So the tool is, how do you greet your wife after not seeing her all day from work? Give her the attention she deserves. Okay? Tool for attention. One more tool I'm going to give you, which is a tool for affection. I like this one too. You must speak to your wife in affectionate tones. When? All the time. the time. You have to speak to her with affectionate tones all the time. When I say all the time, I mean all the time. You can't give me an exception when you shouldn't speak to her in affectionate tones. You see, it's difficult for us men because we compartmentalize our relationship. There's part of the relationship that is affectionate time, so there we'll speak affectionately. Part of the relationship is business time. We're going to be paying bills and visa bills. Well, then we business tones. Part of the relationship is parenting tones, walking the dog tones, out with friends tones, at a seminar tones. We compartmentalize our life. But for women who are relationship beings, every aspect of the relationship is relationship. There is no compartmentalizing. Every single aspect of the relationship is relationship. You have to speak with affectionate tones. I learned this lesson in my marriage very early on, but unfortunately I learned it the hard way. When I was first married, I was living in Jerusalem, and I was in rabbinic college, in a yeshiva, and I got married. And there's certain laws around the first year of marriage, called the laws of Shana Rishona. There's the first year. You're supposed to do things that create a foundation for a beautiful lifelong relationship. One of the laws, in the evenings, you're supposed to keep your evenings free, not go out and work and do other things, and spend the time together, building the trust in the relationship. So in my Shana Rishona, my first year, I was in yeshiva. Everyone here been in yeshiva? Anyone not? For those that haven't, yeshiva, College of Jewish Study, it's kind of the opposite of a public library. What's it like learning in a public library? What's it sound like? Yeshiva is completely different. You get a couple hundred people studying together in partners, and it's loud, and there's energy, and people are yelling at each other. Come on, what are you saying? That's not what it says. Read the words. What are you talking about? And then lunchtime comes. You put your arm around each other and go, hey, Yosef, how you doing? Great. How's the wife, kids? Oh, good. How's the football team doing? Good. Excellent. And you come back 45 minutes later and you say, where were we? Come on! That's not what it said. Read. What are you, crazy? Come on, read it. So it's a beautiful, dynamic place. So, my wife and I, during our Shana Rishona, our first year of marriage, were thinking of things to do in the evenings, and she said, why don't we learn together? To which I said, absolutely. That's fantastic. Thank you. And so I said, do you mind if we learn Chumash? We learn the Torah together? She goes, no, great. I said, okay, anything in particular? She says, no, go ahead. I said, do you mind if I read? She said, no. I thought it was going very well at that point. So I read a verse, I read a pasuk, I read a verse, and I say, so what do you think it means? So she gives her interpretation. I look down at the words, I look up at her, I look down at the words. Come on! Read the words! That's not what it says! And I'm in heaven. Read the word! And I look up, and what is she doing? She's crying. She's crying. I never once elicited that response from my study partner. She's crying, and then she says to me, why are you yelling at me? I said, honey, I'm not yelling at you. We're just learning together. And at that point I understood that it doesn't matter what part of the relationship you're in. Relationship is relationships. You have to speak to her in affectionate tones. It doesn't matter whether you're being affectionate, whether you're with the children, in public, with the in-laws, out with friends, or paying down the visa bill. It makes no difference. You have to speak to her with affectionate tones. And let me tell you what constitutes affectionate tones. It has to convey two messages. First one, love. Second one, respect. Your tone has to convey love and respect at all times for your wife. That's a tool for affection. Okay? Clear? Okay, I'm going to press on. We're going to flip it around. Then I'll take questions afterwards. We're going to flip it around. We're going to talk about what women need to know to make their men happy.
What they like to eat.
What they like to eat. It's actually very simple. There's only two things. Only two things you need to know women in order to make your man happy. It's not what you're thinking either. It's only two things. First thing is that you need to know that every single man is a giant ego with legs. That's what we are. Huge egos with legs walking around. And what does an ego need? feeding, right? What does an ego need?
Right.
Stroking, right? Needs praise. You have to stroke your husband's ego. When?
Always.
Yeah. We'll get to that in a second. You have to stroke his ego. Let me explain to you what an ego stroke looks like for a man, so you appreciate what that looks like. Imagine, God forbid, every single woman on planet Earth died, except you. So now there's you and 3 billion men on the planet. So you turn to your husband and you say, honey, we had a nice run, but I'm the only game in town. I'm going to go and find the greatest guy in the world for me. I might pick up 3 billion people. So you put out a bulletin on the internet. And you say, any man that wants a woman, I'm available. Here's my criteria. Send me a CV. Send me a CV. CV. Send me a CV. So you get 1 billion CVs back. And you go through 1 billion of them and 1 billion, and you say, okay, I'm ready to choose. And 1 billion men line up. And you walk right up to your husband and you say, I still pick you. That's an ego stroke. That's how you have to make your husband feel. When?
All the time.
Oh, you hear the men talking now? All the time. All the time. That's how you have to make your husband feel. All the time. Because, and let me just say one more thing about that, is that women, it's imperative that you're the one who gives him that ego stroke. You. Why is it important that you're the one who does it? He'll have to find it elsewhere otherwise, and it's a terrible thing because it's a need for a man. But more important than that is that you're the only one who really knows him. In a lot of ways, the wife knows the husband better than he knows himself. And your ego stroke is really the only one that really matters in his life anyway. Everything else is sort of much more superficial. Like, for example, when I travel around giving lectures and seminars, invariably at the end I usually get standing ovations. I'm actually looking forward to it tonight. Is a standing ovation an ego stroke? Yes. You bet! It's a great ego stroke. It really is. One time I was giving a talk in Toronto. We packed a room out. There were 300 people there, and it was a fun crowd, just like you, a great crowd. And at the end, they, not as good as you, and at the end, they stood up, and they were clapping, and it was really ego stroke? You bet. My wife was there. So we walked out, and we drove home. It was about a 10-minute drive to our house. And on the way home, my wife turned to me, and she said in her still, sweet, loving voice, she said, you know, Aryeh, tonight you were really, really good. What meant more to me, the 300 people cheering or my wife? It's not even in the same league. Why is that? Why is that? Because you guys don't know me. When you guys could get up and cheer for me later, you don't really know me. You don't know. You know, it's sort of a little snippet in my life for an hour, and we had shared some wisdom, and we had a good time, so I appreciate it. But my wife, for 20 years of marriage, the struggles and what we've been through and where we've been and what we've done in our... When she says something, that the ego stroke, it's real. It's the only real ego stroke we get as men in our life is from our wife. It's imperative, women, that you stroke your husband's ego when? All the time. But especially when? Listen to this. Especially when? When he does his job. When he does his job, he gets a massive ego stroke. When he does his job. It's imperative, women, that you do that. I'll explain it a little more in a second. Questions in a minute. The second thing, women, you need to know about making your man happy, and I hope I'm not going to shatter any illusions here. Any newlyweds? Anybody married less than 6 months or a year? You have? I'm sorry if I'm just going to shatter any illusions right now. But women, you got to understand is that your husband will never ever really understand you. And you have to get over that dream that one day he's going to really understand you. but he's never ever going to really understand you. Why not? Different, but not only different. Women, you are unbelievably, incredibly complicated for a man. What you were saying earlier, right? Incredibly complicated to a man. And we'll never really understand you. It's tragic for a woman, because as a relationship being, what's the thing you want more than anything else in the world? To be understood. And here you are in your relationship, the deepest relation, the primary relationship of your life, with somebody that can never really fully understand you. And the reason... Okay, we'll take questions in a second. We'll see. But for the rest of us, the reason why a man will never really fully understand you, because you're so unbelievably complicated, I use what I call the universal light bulb theory to explain this phenomenon. Universal light bulb theory goes something like this. You come home and your wife, or you're in the house, and your wife says, "Hey, honey, there's a light bulb out in the kitchen. Would you please change it?" So, I don't want to make your wife happy. What do you say? Sure. On the way to the closet to get the step stool, what happens? Life! The dog barks, your stomach growls, your phone rings, something happens. About an hour later, your wife says, "You know, honey, the light's still out in the kitchen. Would you please go?" Right! This time you make it to the closet with the step stool on the way to the kitchen. What happens? Life! Another hour passes. She says, "You know, honey, the light bulb's still out." What happens after the third, fourth, or fifth time? What does it sound like? Why don't you change the light bulb? Why don't you change the light bulb? Change the light bulb! Why don't you change the light bulb? And what's every man thinking? What's the big deal? It's just a light bulb. But what he doesn't understand, that's not just a light bulb. That light bulb represents everything that has ever gone wrong in the relationship. Is in that light bulb. 6 weeks ago when you were at the restaurant, that waiter incident, that's in the light bulb. Remember that one? 20 years ago when the in-laws came over, remember that? That's in the light bulb. That light bulb represents everything that has ever gone wrong in the relationship is in that light bulb. So when my wife says change the light bulb, what do I do? What, are you kidding? I run, step over anything, right? But after I change that light bulb, a funny thing happens. She says, "As long as you have the stool out, would you please, hang up that picture?" But what I didn't know is that picture that she asked me to hang up represents everything in the relationship as well. Actually, everything represents everything in the relationship. Everything. Women, you are way, way, way too complicated for us. Therefore, it's imperative, women, that you give your man a break. When?
All the time.
No! No, not all the time. It's imperative that you give your man a break. When? When he does not do his job. Women, let me explain to you how men work. All men make decisions based on two things. They weigh the effort versus the reward. So here in a marriage, they're going to be putting effort into the marriage, and they're seeing what the reward is. So now they're going to do their job, attention, affection, appreciation, and they get a tiny little ego stroke. They don't do their job, and what happens? They get explosions. So try doing that over and over again. What's the man going to do? He's going to retreat into his cave. He's going to leave, say it's not worth the effort because the reward's not there. It's a dangerous place to tread. Just going to get out of that place and not withdraw. But women, you have a job too. Your job is to help him do his job. Your job is to help him do his job, which to make you happy, which means when he does his job, gets a humongous ego stroke. And when he doesn't do his job, he gets a break. And you do that enough, what's he going to want to do more and more? His job. And then what happens is that he'll do his job, he gets a huge ego stroke, you take the relationship, and you captain that ship giving back to him, pointing it in directions of intimacy and connection and love and communication. He gets this huge ego stroke, does his job. You take that energy, creating the dynamic of a passionate, loving, fun, long-term, growth-oriented, and most importantly, intimate relationship. Any questions? May I get a tissues? Any tissues in this room? Someone's getting one. You don't have to reach in first. Any questions? You had a question?
Yeah, the example you gave about the ego stroke, where you kind of pick him over and above everybody else, that to me sounds like a relationships example that a woman would need. Like that a woman would need to be picked above everyone else. So I wanted to ask, the ego stroke, is it in terms of relationship, I would pick you over everyone else, or in terms of anything he does, job-wise, he fixed the kitchen ceiling, that kind of thing? It's not clear. Should I say it again?
Yeah, one more time.
Okay. The example you gave, that you would stand in front of a billion men and still pick him. So that, I would say, is a relationships type of example that a woman would want. A woman would want to feel that in a relationship she's...
Right, so let me explain. The only thing a man knows about a relationship, that he intuits and he understands about a relationship, is he understands that his success of the relationship is judged by how happy his wife is. Every man intuits that. Right? Every man intuits, he understands, I know that I'm doing well if my wife is happy. And that his failure as a husband is when he sees his wife isn't happy. His success in marriage is when his wife looks at him in that certain way that a wife looks at a husband. When she looks at him and says, "Oh, I'm so happy that I married you." It's a look. It's a smile. It's a, you know what I'm pointing? That's what the ego stroke has to feel like to him, or it's not a real ego stroke. Women make the mistake, they think that they give him an ego stroke, it's a little ego stroke, it's good, it's good enough. Whatever you think an ego stroke is, husband, double it. Now double that, and you're not even halfway there yet. You cannot ever, yeah, you can't. So the next question usually is what if it's disingenuous? What if it's not like real? So here are the three options. Number one, don't give him an ego stroke. Number two, give him an ego stroke that's not fully genuine. Or number three, give him a genuine ego stroke. Which is the best? Genuine. Which is the worst? No ego stroke. So if you don't feel it, give him an ego stroke anyway. It's better than not doing it.
And it's to do with how well he's doing in the relationship rather than how well he painted the wall.
No, everything. Anything. It's how well he painted the wall, or even if he didn't paint it well. That he tried to paint it well, that he put the effort in.
Bearing in mind what you said about ego stroke, play back the scenario of your friend who came home tired from work. How would you play it now?
He said, play out the scenario, putting in the ego stroke of the friend who came in from work. Here it is. Ready? I'm going to play it out. Ugh, I'm exhausted. I'm about to walk into the house. I better do something. Jumping jack, jumping jack, jumping jack. Going to see my wife. This is the most important client of my day. I have to make sure that I make her feel incredible. Okay, good. Walk in the door. Hey, honey. Wow, I'm so happy you stayed up. I'm so glad to see you. I hope we could talk for a few minutes. Or what do you need? Blah, 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 blah. Oh, yeah, tell me about your day. Oh, I had the most exhausting day ever. Wow, I can't believe how hard you work. It's such an inspiration to me. You hear? He does his too. What?
You're putting the onus on the man to start.
Correct. Every single time.
Do you think that's a fair expectation?
I don't care about fair. I care about effective.
Would it be equally effective?
No, it would not. No.
Before he's jumped.
No, it would not. No.
Hi, how are you?
No.
And bring him out of it.
No, it would not. What you have to understand for a man has to understand, and you have to understand, is that it's like a tennis match. The man has to serve the ball in the net. and then the woman will always hit it back. If the man doesn't serve the ball, she waits. She's got nothing to play with. She's waiting. Yes, the onus is on the man every single time, 100% of the time. Yes?
You kind of gave that example that said that if you didn't change the light bulb, everything for the woman is in that light bulb.
Yes.
Why is that the case? I understand it, but why is that? It seems so silly. That you get so emotional on
Why? Because she knows. I'll give you some examples why it's so important. She's asking, why is it the case that the light bulb, everything represents everything in the light bulb? She said, I know it's true, but why? You've seen your husband, not your husband, but women have seen their husband when they get a phone call from their boss. And he said, I need these 3 things done. What does he do? Those 3 things. Or a client, what does he do? Or his mother. What does he do? Right? Runs to get him done. But as soon as you ask him to do it, what does he do? Nothing. So what is that saying to you? Not important. So that's why everything represents everything, because he's already proven that he's effective at getting things done when it's important to him. Men, how many times have you heard this from your wife? Well, if it was important to you, you would have done it. That's true. It's not important to me. It's just a stupid light bulb. No, it's not. It's when I ask you something, it's not important to you. Oh, get it. The other thing you should know, which just triggered something, is that the one thing a man will run 1,000 miles to do, all effort in the world, 1,000 miles to do, is to avoid a relationship issue. He would rather do anything in the world than have a relationship issue. The most tiring thing for a man, the most taxing thing for a man, is when the wife says, honey, we need to talk. So if he does his job and he has a tool and he knows what it is, he'll do it. But he has to be reminded, because he doesn't always remember that. He just thinks it's a light bulb. But if he remembers it's a relationship thing, ooh, I'll do it. Can you indulge me? When I asked you about what does it sound like when the woman says, change the light bulb, remember, all of you said what? Nagging. Can I tell you something about nagging, nagging will stop in your marriage? Would that be effective for you? Yeah. Is that English way of saying yes again? Oh, okay, good. Women, and it's primarily women, it's not all the time, there's exceptions, but why is it that women usually nag?
They want something done.
They want something done. But why nagging? Is it effective? So why do it?
They're not nagging, they're asking you to do something.
Over and over and over and over again. Definition, nagging.
It's not nagging.
Echoing, yes it is.
Yes, it is.
Women don't feel heard. They're not being heard.
They don't feel heard, so therefore what do? They say it again and again and again and again and again, hoping that at the 55th time they'll be heard.
Yeah.
So they'll go 54, 55, and the husband will go, oh, wow, I get it now. Why didn't you say that in the first place? Definition of insanity. Doing the same thing over and over and over and again and expecting a different result. It's insane for women to keep saying the same thing over and over again. I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about. What should they do? Something effective. So what would that be? Can I use you as you can stay seated, but I'm going to get scary for a second. Is that okay? Can you handle it? Don't worry, I won't. It's not real scary. Just acting.
She made me sit here.
Here we go. Ready? Do me a favor, please. Bafusta nusta blubla. What's your first name?
Craig.
Craig. Bafusta nusta blubla. English people are rude. I've asked them twice. Bafusta busta blusta. I don't remember what I said. Would you please go bafusta busta blusta for me? Bafusta busta blusta. Bafusta busta blusta. Bafusta busta blusta. How many times would I say, Melissa, for you to actually go up and get what I asked you to? Never. Right? He may try. He'd say, he wants a lamp, I think. Bring me a lamp. Whatever. What are you not listening to me? See, the reason why women nag, and they say the same thing over and over again, is because they think that what they're saying is what their husband's hearing. So they keep repeating it. Would you please change the light bulb? By the way, the light bulb's not a light bulb. The light bulb's a paradigm. Insert what works for your relationship. Change the light bulb. What does the man hear? Change the light bulb. Not a big deal. I can do it whenever I want. The wife says, change the light bulb. What does the man hear? Change the light bulb. Heard that before. Not a big deal. Change the light bulb. All right, so now she's doing that nagging thing where she's saying it over again. Not a big deal. I'll do what I'll do. Change the light bulb. Change the light bulb. Change the light bulb. Change the light bulb. What? You know how you end nagging? Is you explain to him what it means to you, not what it is. So the first time you say to him, honey, would you please change the light bulb because it makes me feel like you appreciate me, or it makes me feel like you value me when I ask you things. Whoa, relationship thing. All I got to do is change that light bulb and there's no relationship issue? Boom, he goes and changes the light bulb the very first time. He's not doing it because he doesn't want to do it for you. He's not doing it because he doesn't understand what it means to you. You said the words, you get mad that he doesn't pick up the context. Speak out the context. He'll understand the words. You'll never have to nag, ever. He still may not do it the first time, but he'll do it the second time. Make sense?
So if he...
Oh, I just want to say one last thing on that. To the men, you're welcome.
If he doesn't do something and we're meant to give him a break, how do we not get the message that it's not because we're less important than his...
Excellent question. If when he's not doing his job and you give him a break, how do you communicate to him the message that you want him to do his job? Unfortunately, I can't repeat that. But if you heard it, it's good advice. This is what the answer is that why is it not, when he doesn't do it, why is it a bad idea to communicate it when he doesn't do it? Because what does it come across as? Very criticism, and his ego's going to get engaged, and he's going to say this, forget this. If you want him to do it, you have to do it at a different time to explain to him what it means to you in a conversation. That's not a conversation about him not doing it, but a conversation later about what he can do to help to do his job better. And then you'll have that conversation.
It doesn't mean you're not important. He didn't understand that for him that action would mean that you are important.
Yeah, I can assure you in almost every relationship, the man is not doing it because you're not important to him. He's not doing it because he's just not focused on what it means, and he's forgetting. Every man wants to make his wife happy. It's so hard. It's such a blind place for a man. It's like we get into this world of relationship, and you bring your wife flowers, and she hugs you and kisses you. She says, "Oh, you're the greatest thing ever." And then the next day you bring her flowers, and she throws them at you. Says, "Today you bring me flowers," and he doesn't understand like what the difference was. Or you come home without the flowers, and your wife says, you said you're going to bring me flowers for Shabbos, and you say, "Oh, right, I forgot. I'll go get them now." And the wife says, "Forget it, it's too late." It's not too late, honey. The store is still open. You can go get it. It's not too late. So, no, it's too late. It doesn't mean anything. Well, it does mean something, So you got to, when I say give him a break, you got to really focus him in on what he's trying to do, which is make you happy. And every husband, all he wants to do is make his wife happy. It's the most important thing in his life. Some people we lose our way when it gets tough. But every man wants to make his wife happy. It's his greatest pleasure. There's nothing that he'd rather do than make his wife happy. Nothing. And yeah.
what about when it's something like my wife might say, I'm cold, turn the heating on. I'm like, I'm so hot, I don't want the heating on. And if ever this like constant, I'm cold, but I'm hot, I want her to be happy, but I'm going to really suffer and put the heating on.
So that's an excellent question. I'm going to give you an answer which is high level, black belt, 6th level black belt marriage jiu-jitsu, okay? But if you could have in your mind that you have a choice between a happy wife and any other discomfort, choose the happy wife. So you'll be hot with a happy wife. So then you won't. So therefore, you won't sleep with a happy wife. What's the alternative?
I sleep and.
I rest my case. You won't be sleeping either. Trust me. Any other questions, comments, words of praise? Helpful hands. Okay. Thank you, everybody. Oh, one last question.
Generally, in our heads, we know that that's what they do. They want to make us happy, and because of the bulb, let's come back to this bulb again. You make such a big deal out of it, and he says, "Why are you making such a deal? Oh, whatever I did for you, all my 3 A's I've been doing all this time, it's nothing for the bulb, and it's making like very upset. How do you make yourself not to get so upset? Not to make yourself to go down so much, up and down." Much to make it
You ever taken any courses in innate health? That's the answer to the question. Yeah. Okay, everybody, thank you very much. Hopefully we'll see you all soon. One second. It works every time.
I just want to say thank you very much to Aryeh. That was as good a thank you as you're going to get, I suppose. Aryeh and I used to be roommates together 25 years ago in Jerusalem, so we go back a long way.
We both upgraded.
Yeah, absolutely. We got married around the same time. We had kids around the same time, so we got a lot in common. So I want to say one thought before we finish. Aryeh came on Wednesday, and I went to listen to him speak on Wednesday night in somebody's home. And being the what did you say, an ego on 2 legs that I am, the walking ego. I of course, I teach a lot on marriage, and I counsel a lot on marriage. So I understood that there's really nothing more I could know about marriage, and I understand it all. And my wife does tell me I'm a really good husband, so I have some support there for that. But I went to this thing, and I really felt I learned something, and not just that, but I came home that night and kind of said to Aryeh, "Please come anytime you want." So I do feel as though I feel the same tonight. I really feel the same tonight. I feel there's so much there, and I was just to reiterate what Aryeh said. I do a fair amount of marriage counselling. I always feel the same thing, in every circumstance. That it's so painful to see 2 people who, under all circumstances, they do want to make each other happy. They really do. They want the relationship to work. The husband does want to make his wife happy, no matter how much frustration he's got. And the wife does want to make the husband happy. Deep down, that's what they're looking for. And yet they're at each other's throats, fighting like cats and dogs, ready to kill each other. And it's such a contrast. And I think that's what it comes down to, is just a lack of understanding, just a lack of a sense of what to do. And that's why I felt it was important to have something like this. And this is why I wanted to bring Aryeh over. If you haven't, we have a lot of things going on at Tikkun. So if you haven't filled in your details, we'd like to keep you up to date with what we're doing. We didn't get everybody's details on the way in. There's some cards on the way out. Please just fill out a card and stick it in the box. And take a calendar. We've got calendars as to all the different events that we've got going on. If you're interested in the 3 principles, innate health, please ask more. Please be in touch with us. Please find out more. I do agree 100% that this is the essence of what it's about. This is the solution, ultimately, to not just our relationships, but to walking through life with peace and with comfort and with focus and without the ups and downs, as somebody over here was talking about before. Or without, let's put it differently, not without, there's always going to be ups and downs, but without being as fazed by them, without being as frustrated and as upset by them as one might be. Thank you all for coming, and hope to see you again. Wish you all good night.